Hello and welcome to the Football Revolution. I'm your host, Gio. Thanks for joining us. 2 semi-finals down, 2 to go, but who will play in the grand final is still not much clearer, and a lot more to chat about as the season is fast coming to an end. And joining me to work through this, my co-host, VIG. Good evening, mate.
Good evening. Yeah, 2 down, 2 to go, and a big grand final ahead.
Mate, that's similar to, 1 down, 1 to go. So Mother's Day's just passed and Father's Day still to come. So, yeah, lots happening with families. Did you have a good Mother's Day? I know your mum's actually over visiting Alex at the moment in the US, but did you still have a good day with your wife and mother-in-law?
I did. Good day here with my wife and mother-in-law. Had a lovely lunch, but yeah, it's a shame for my mum that she had to spend her Mother's Day with her number 2 son, and not the number 1.
All right, well, make sure that that's a little bit more editing for me before we send it out so Alex doesn't see that. But government belt tightening has cost the A-League All-Stars a lucrative showdown with Bayern Munich in Sydney, ruining plans for a bumper weekend of football that included a women's showpiece involving Barcelona that could have also included the Socceroos. What are these guys doing, honestly?
Oh, I don't know. It's a shame because they had all these plans. The festival of football, the women's grand final, then the All Stars game, and then the A League grand final will follow, and they've just absolutely stuffed everything up. So I don't know where to start. I don't know where to finish on this. It's a shame. It's a shame for A League players who potentially have the chance to go and play against a big club like Bayern. We saw it last year with Barcelona. It was a nice event. Can it be better? Yes. Is the timing of it not great? Are these things better off left for later into the off season, or even as a pre-season thing, as a build up into the season? So it's hard to say. I don't know where it all went wrong, but the New South Wales government hasn't come through, and it's a shame.
Yeah, look, I suppose an A-League All-Stars game featuring a huge club like Bayern Munich is not as big as the what do they call it, the Magic Round or whatever. Like, honestly, I just can't believe the only global game that we have in this country and pretty much in the world, other than basketball, gets shafted by sports like that. I'm sure they'll put plenty of money in when it comes to Origin and all these other sports.
Yeah, 100%. But it's just the way it is in this country. It's the way it's been for a long, long time. And the APL, the A leagues, the clubs. Maybe we need to get a little bit more creative. And I don't know what the answer is right now, but we need to build the league up again. We need to create a football culture in this country. That is bigger and stronger than the NRL culture or AFL culture, and it takes time to develop that and to build that back up again. And unfortunately, they just haven't been able to do that and harness. We've got the biggest participation rate in the country. At a grassroots level, how can we harness that and turn that into bums on seats at A-League games and a football culture that, people are jealous of. The AFL and the NRL and other codes around Australia should be jealous of football in this country and the potential that football has.
Mate, summary is you tighten the belts, you affected the brain. So we'll leave it at that. But a record-breaking crowd of 77,390 watches on as a Sam Kerr goal was enough to give Chelsea a 1-0 win over Man United in the FA Cup, handing the Blues a remarkable three-peat. What an effort! What a performance!
Yeah, huge. Sam Kerr's absolutely flying with Chelsea at the moment. They're one of the best women's teams in world football, up there with the likes of Barcelona, Lyon. And she's at the peak of her powers right now, and scoring goals in finals, FA Cup final over Man United to win. We just hope she carries this form into the Women's World Cup later this year.
You pinch yourself, though, when you see a crowd of nearly 80,000 at an FA Cup women's final. And to be honest, like I said, it's just one of those things. It's not that the women's game didn't have the potential to reach this. It's not that the women's players aren't great, but considering where they've come from to now, fast track a few years, and you've got 80,000. 80,000 in any sport, any final, anything is just another planet.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Wembley is you're off to Wembley at the start of the season when the cup starts. Everyone's aim is to get to Wembley, and it's got such tradition playing in that stadium. And we've seen so many great men's FA Cup finals and semi-finals, and now to have the women on the same stage with the same crowd, it's an amazing feat.
The Olyroos squad was announced for the prestigious Maurice Revello tournament, and the Joey's Asian Cup squad is to be announced soon. So, lots happening in the youth spaces of the Australian setup. So, was there anything that caught your eye? Anything that excites you about this? To be honest, I don't know much about this Maurice Revello tournament. Is this something that they play in France? Is this a preparation for the Olyroos squad, or what's the deal with this?
Neither did I. You said prestigious, but yeah, I don't know too much about it either. Look, it's just tournament football, I guess, and it's a build up. They're getting these players in now for the Olympic Games in Paris in 26. So, yeah, look, I think it's a pretty strong squad. It's an exciting squad, to be honest with you. Some really good young talent there. Neuenhoff, Quol, Jelicic, Jacob Italiano. There's some real good talent. Marco Tilio's there as well. Nectar Triantis, Josh Rawlins, who's over at Utrecht at the moment. So I think it's a really strong squad, and hopefully, they can start to build something and grow. Every time they come together, they grow as a team and grow as footballers, and take that to the Olympics.
Yeah, look, the thing for me that was nice to see was the fact that some of the players who have performed really well in the A-League this year have been recognised for those performances. And yes, look, it's fantastic to be plying your trade over in Europe, and we all, a lot of players, including ourselves in our day, were dreaming of that. But it's also good, if you're playing well, doesn't really matter what league you're in, right? So I think, and also gives more credibility to the A-League, and hopefully will attract, not only foreign players, but also keep our young players here a little bit longer. So yeah, look, it was great to see. On the topic of Australian players, so Aussies abroad, Ryan Strain scored a brilliant free kick, and Nathaniel Atkinson registered an assist as St Mirren Hearts ended 2-2. Nick D'Agostino scored a goal and assist, helping his team Viking FK to a 2-1 win. That was his second goal of the season. Riley McGree played 90 minutes in his side, Middlesbrough's 0-0 with Coventry, in the hope to secure a promotion back to the Premier League. So a huge second leg coming up for his team. Toulouse's Denis Genero was man of the match as his side drew 0-0 with Nantes. And Cam Pepillon was awarded PL2 Player of the Month for April. So if you're ever awarded a Player of the Month in any league around the world, in Europe especially, it's an amazing feat. But for it to be the league just below the Premier League goes to show that this guy's going places. And he was selected too, wasn't he, in the Olyroos squad?
He's having a great season with Brighton. I'm not sure if he was actually in the squad. He might be.
I was pretty sure I saw.
Oh, he is. He's definitely in the squad. He's of age. So
he's probably the first pick.
he was. He's absolutely flying this season. He's been on the bench for Brighton last week against Man United. Now PL Player of the Month. He's always been a talent, and like we said, he was talented at Sydney FC, but just never got a chance. So he was probably too young to even get a sniff around the first team. But he's moved overseas, and now he's right up there. He could be due for a loan out to a championship or a League One side next year. If not, maybe he's up in the Premier League.
Yeah, look, it's great that he's in the being recognised, like we said, in the Olyroos squad, and yeah, it'll be interesting next, I suppose, 18 months to see how he can progress from the amazing season he's had. PL news. So Man City sit at the top of the table, 4 points clear with the game in hand over Arsenal, who suffered a shock 3-0 loss to Brighton. Newcastle and United are locked on 66 points, so they look like they'll secure a top 4 finish with only 3 games to play. And Liverpool 4 points further back, so it looks like maybe that gap is a little bit too big for them to close. Everton with a huge 5-1 win over Brighton, which not only seems to have got them out of trouble, but it also made them very angry. So it's gone and caused them to smack Arsenal, which has obviously not only affected the win has not only affected the bottom of the table, but it's also affected the top of the table. And Nottingham Forest picking up 4 points from a win and a draw has turned the battle for survival on its head. So the Saints on 24 are already relegated. So unfortunately for the Southampton fans, you'll be playing Championship next year. The Foxes are on 30, so they're also looking to be heading down, and Leeds round out the bottom 3 on 31. A further point ahead is Everton on 32, and Forest, who had a good 2 games, on 34. So, and with West Ham seem to be out of reach now. So it really comes down to Leeds, Leicester, Everton, and Forest to see who will join Saints dropping down a division.
Yeah, look, it looks like the top of the table's pretty much sorted. Man City sort of running away with it now. Arsenal with a big slip up at home to Brighton, losing 3-0 there. But I think the writing was on the wall for the Gunners. The last couple of weeks, they just haven't been good enough. And, Man City they're just win after win after win. I think Ilkay Gundogan with, was it 2 goals and an assist, or 2 assists and a goal? He's an absolute freak, doing what he's doing at his age in the Premier League. I think his first goal, that touch on his knee, and he's flicked it behind his head into the back of the net. That's a absolutely incredible goal. I think it's just the technique on him, and to be able to cushion the ball up and flick it behind your leg in one motion. Most players his age would do a hammy doing that, I think. But yeah, I think it's getting exciting down the bottom of the table.
On the topic of Gundogan, though, surely he must be nicknamed the Bear, because he's been in hibernation for 3/4 of the season, right? We have not seen him. People put him in their fantasy team based on last year's performance, and the guy's just been going average. And now all of a sudden, when it counts, right, when the going gets tough, and they were struggling against Arsenal, and there was other players out of form. Okay, yes, they had Haaland, who was flying, but there was other guys who were hot and cold. One week Mahrez is good, next week he's not. One week Grealish is, and so on. He's just come out of nowhere, right, and started to absolutely. That's 2 goals, isn't it? Back a brace for him in 2 weeks in a row, and he's just really going to show what a top quality player he is.
Yeah, look, don't be too hard on him. I think he had a kid not too long ago, so maybe he was struggling with the sleep. But he's a phenomenal player. I think he's in terms of German players in the Premier League, I think he's right up there with the best. I think maybe Mesut Ozil is number 1. And maybe Gundogan close second, but like you said, he's the last few weeks when they've really needed him to dig themselves out of a hole, or get themselves in front in a game. He's stepped up and produced some great goals.
Who's going down for you? Who's going to join the Saints?
Oh, look, I think Leicester are probably gone now. Although they do have a game in hand on Leeds, Everton, and Forest. So if they win that game in hand, stranger things have happened. But it's literally it's a 4-way battle for 2 spots. I don't think Forest are out of it yet, and I don't think Everton are out of it either. So if I had to pick 2 right now, I think it'd be Leicester, and I'm going to say Leeds and Everton are going to get out of it, and Forest are going down.
Okay. I reckon Leeds, as much as I hate to say this when there's so many Aussie fans, based on the great history we have with Kiel and Viduka and so on, I reckon their draw's too hard. I said this a few weeks ago, and I thought that Everton would escape. And I think Forest had just got too big a lead on them. I think they've done enough. They got a point against Chelsea, and they were unlucky. They should have got a win. So I think they're in good form. I know Chelsea's struggling, but still, if you look on paper, Chelsea's bench is worth more than Forest's whole team, whole grandstand, whole club, whole everything. So I think for me, it'll probably be Leicester, Leeds, and Saints. I think it will stay the way it is. So team of the season replaces our player escape room this week. So VIG and I name our best lineups of the season, or the best team that we think we could put out on paper for a cracking clash based on the players that have played in the A-League this season. Revolutionised Round-up of the 2 men's semi-final first legs. And is there anything I didn't see? VIG.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you know this, but so Feyenoord won. They were crowned Dutch champions overnight, defeating the Go Ahead Eagles 3-0 to take an 8-point lead. Now over closest rivals. I think PSV are just behind them, but there's only 2 games remaining. So
is that a real team, Go Ahead Eagles? Or is that
the Go Ahead Eagles? No, it's a real team. It
sounds like a grassroots club team.
It does. Maybe they were, and they just got promotion after promotion after promotion, okay. and until they made the top flight. But yeah. So did you know that Feyenoord actually have an Australian who is head of performance there?
Okay, no, I didn't know that. What's his name?
All right, so it's Lee Egger. He's a former Manly United and Sydney Olympic first grade player. I actually played against him in the NPL here in New South Wales, and he gave up his own football career to move overseas and pursue a career in physiotherapy and athletic development. and now he's a Eredivisie champion as part of the coaching staff at Feyenoord. So congratulations to Lee and Feyenoord on a terrific season, and he's done a great job keeping his players fit and healthy all season.
Mate, smart move, right? I don't know what he would have achieved playing NPL, but he's gone and won himself a Dutch title, and he's got his name recognised now. I don't think he would have got this much credibility or this much people talking about him when he was playing in the NPL, but he's made a brave move and it's paid off for him. So congratulations to Lee, and all the best for him. My weekly wrap has been replaced by a shout out dedicating a weekly song to a team or a player for their good or bad performance. This week's shout out goes to Matilda's star Sam Kerr, who scored the winning goal against Man United in the FA Cup, as we mentioned. Her team is still on course to win the league. Chelsea's a point behind United with a game in hand. And the song we send to her is AMU, is it THAMC apostrophe S's banging track, My Team.
From the bottom where we grinding, that's my team, that's my team. To the top where we shining, that's my team, that's my team. Loyalty over everything, that's my team. Every day I thank the Lord for the...
I don't know how you pronounce that. It's capitals, small letters. It looks like a kid's been smashing on the keyboard, but it's I'm sure there's some acronyms in there and some abbreviations. But yeah, it was capital AMU, lowercase THA, uppercase MC apostrophe lowercase s. So it's it's called My Team. Surely our Sam has now proven she's the best female player on the planet.
Right now, probably is. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few others.
You might even be the best player on the planet. Full stop.
Alexa, well, quite possibly.
Who else is single-handedly bossing games like she is at the moment and controlling her team's destiny? It's a team sport, right? It's 11 aside plus bench, and quite often you have coaches saying it's a squad effort. It takes all 16 or 24. No, it's not. It's taken one lady at the moment, Sam Kerr.
Yeah, look, I think she's got a case for being the best female footballer this season. She might even go on to win the Ballon d'Or next year. I guess a lot of that resides on how she performs at the World Cup. So fingers crossed she keeps this form, keeps it going, and the Matildas reap the rewards for it.
Massive pressure though. She's got the tag obviously at the moment, or as if not the best, as one of the best few players in the world at the moment. And you got a home World Cup, right, which very rarely happens, to a player, let alone a player who's got that pressure. So look, this will test how strong she is under the pressure. Hopefully for her and for the Matildas and for the country, she does stand tall, but it is a lot of pressure and a big ask. So this will definitely test her out. But let's get into our Revolutionised Round-up of the semi-finals leg one. As we usually do, we pick a match of the day, but as there's only two games, we'll split it. So I'll be taking the Adelaide versus Mariners game, and you'll be covering the Sydney FC versus Melbourne City. For the listeners, we'll give you the score, the goal scorers, the players of the game, the turning point, and what we would have changed, either Coach Gio or VIG, to try and get a result or a different result from the game. So the first game was the Friday night between Sydney FC, who welcomed Melbourne City. How'd you see this one, VIG?
Yeah, it was a great game of football, to be honest. I thought both teams played really well, albeit on a cow paddock out there at Allianz Stadium. I think for a semi-final to have a pitch like that, I think it's a bit of disrespect to the league and to the players of both teams. So when I turned on the TV, I was disappointed to see the pitch in that state. But that's what we deal with as footballers and football lovers in this country. So,
do you think we can get a petition signed that all those other rubbish sports, they can just wear bare feet or gumboots or something? They don't need studs. They don't actually need to keep their footing and balance. They just run, kick, chase, and pass.
They just run in straight lines. So I don't know why. Yeah,
just unlock volleys. Just put like when you go 10-pin bowling, how you have to leave your shoes there and you have to put on the bowling shoes. Just leave a big box of like bowling Dunlop volleys at the gate and tell everyone, take your shoes off and put your Dunlop volleys on. Just run out there and play. Who cares? It doesn't affect the rugby league or the rugby union or any other sport.
I know. Look, it's disappointing, but let's move on from that. So the final score was 1-1. Goal scorers were Matthew Leckie for Melbourne City and Adam Lafondra for Sydney FC. My player of the match was Tom Glover. I thought without him, I think City lose this game without him. He made a crucial double save just before half time. I think it was Caceres with the first shot at his near post. Saved that. The ball bounces back out. and Robert Mack has a shot, but he gets up and dives into the middle of the goal to save that as well. So, I thought that's a crucial point in the game where if that goal goes in, it changes the momentum, just before half time. So, for me, that wasn't quite the turning point, but the turning point came in the 60th minute when Sydney were awarded a penalty. No complaints for me, really. I think 100% penalty for me. Ray slides in, he gets the player, not the ball. I think VAR confirmed it. Penalty.
Was justified. Yep.
Casera steps up. He's denied by Glover. Great save. But Sydney are thrown a lifeline as Callum Talbot has encroached, and ultimately he's the player that clears the ball. So that goes back up to VAR. They re-award the penalty, and Lafondra steps up to make the score 1-1. And I think from there that the game shifted again, and Sydney gained that belief that, hang on a sec, we can go on and win this. And they thought they did. Ryan Grant with a lovely finish from I think it was a Max Burgess cross in, but Maxi was just a slight smidgen offside. So I thought Sydney finished the game really well and probably the stronger of the two teams, to be honest. So
before you get on to what you would have changed, who would be the happier? So Glover pulled off some great saves. Sydney had a disallowed goal for offside. Sydney was gifted a penalty retake, and then you look at City had 62% possession, whereas Sydney had 13 shots to 8. So who do you think leaves Allianz Stadium the happier of the two?
I think both coaches will be, relatively pleased that the tie is still alive. City can go home now, and they'll be confident they can get the job done at home. Sydney have got a tough task going down there and trying to get something out of that match. They need to they need to score a goal essentially because City have that away goal. So I think probably City will be the happier that that they've got their goal. They go back home where they've been so good all season, and they'll believe that they can beat Sydney at home, I think.
Yeah, look, I think if you believe all the rumours, this will be Glover's last season in the A-League. So he's definitely putting himself out there to show people what he's capable of. And he was outstanding, against Sydney. So look, it will probably take another performance like that, especially when Sydney's got the firepower of Peroxide Head, Mac, and Lollyman, and Lafondre, who's looking dangerous again. So look, it will take him and his back four all their peak of their powers to be able to keep Sydney in check. But it will be a cracking game. So what would you have changed to try and get a result, a win for either side in that game?
Yeah, to be honest, not much. I think both coaches did a pretty good job. Sydney made subs at good times. Same with City, but I think that they both did enough to try and win the game, whilst also being wary of totally losing the tie. And I think Corica and Rado Vidicic did a good job at that. They didn't want the game to blow out or to get out of control. And I think the ties, it's nicely balanced going into the second leg. And I think as the second game progresses, depending on the score, if one team goes ahead, then there's at some point in that game, the other team's going to have to take a risk, and when that happens, I think there could be fireworks, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I know there's a lot of people, probably us included, that aren't 100% sold on playoffs happening after you've got a regular season because it doesn't happen in Europe. But with that said, there were two really good games on the weekend. So when you get football like that, it's hard to sit there and say, look, we totally disagree with the concept, because they were both excellent games. Neither team went out there going, okay, there's still a second leg. They both went out there strategically and tried to play to win the game, and they were both high-quality games.
Yeah, definitely. But do you think we would have got the same style of game if it was just a one-off? Is that what you're saying? Like both teams went out to all four teams went out to win.
I don't like the playoffs format because that's not how it works in the big leagues around the world. But to be honest, I actually enjoyed, and I didn't think I would. I enjoyed the two leg. I think I'm going to enjoy the two legs more than I do the knockout one legs, because the one leg you kind of go, well, I go out there and I'm conservative because I'm scared. You make one mistake and you're done. Whereas here, they kind of try to things a bit longer because they know they've got 180 plus minutes to get things right or wrong. So I actually did enjoy this, and look, time will tell when we see the second legs if it does pan out like that. But based on what I've seen from the first leg, I enjoyed it. So I don't know if that means that I'm happy to keep finals in if if once they bring in a second tier competition, they restructure and they get rid of this, I won't be crying about it. But I think, like I said, I did see some good signs come out of a two-leg semi-final series. So moving on to the second of the semi-finals. So that was Adelaide United at home to Central Coast Mariners. Final score here was 2-1 to the away team. So it's the second time that they've beaten them here in as many weeks. The goal scorers were Craig Goodwin from the penalty spot in the 4th minute. James McGarry equalised in the 15th with an absolute cracking strike. So he's been a fantastic pickup from the Phoenix for the Mariners, and what a smart shopping. And I guess last week discussing the team and how they think and operate with both Nick and also Sergio, you can see they've been smart shopping this year, very, very smart shopping. And the winner coming in the 37th from Jason Cummings, taking his season total to 17 goals. But there was no other goals in the second half, so all of the goal-scoring action occurred in the first half. But for me, the player of the game was Danny Vukovic. So to get anything out of a trip to Adelaide, you need to be solid at the back. And besides the penalty, he repelled everything else that came his way. So there was no Tommy Glover-style saves, but he just did enough to make sure that he didn't let anything else get past him. And I think if they'd left there, either losing 2-1 or 2-2 or something like that, I think it would have made them their job at home very difficult. But to leave there, winning, but also only conceding the one goal to Adelaide, I think, and taking 2 away goals with them, I think was a fantastic result for them. So, there was other players that could have maybe pushed for it. James McGarry came off in the 50th odd minute, so I think if he'd stayed on, scoring that cracking goal, which turned the tie back in their favour, as well as how hard he was working, he could have easily got the man of the match. But I think 50 minutes in, he just didn't do quite enough. And they'll be hoping that he's available again for the return fixture at home this week. And for me, I think the turning point, it's strange when it's 2 legs. It's only half time, so it's not full time yet. It's only half time, so it's hard to say, the turning point. But for me, Gauchi pulled off an unbelievable save to deny Cummings from around the penalty spot when he was unmarked. And then he got it all wrong to allow the Mariners to take the lead 6 minutes later. So the same player shot, and I don't know what he was doing. It was like he was doing the gardening or something. He was reaching down, pulling out some weeds, and then all of a sudden someone kicked the ball at him. He wasn't expecting it. So for a guy who's been absolutely sensational this year, Gauchi's made his Socceroos debut, etc. It was just really weird. I don't know what had happened there, but I think that was the turning point too, because I think, they'd received a counterpunch from James McGarry. And so, and they were sort of getting back into the game, and then all of a sudden they concede a really soft goal like that. And then from there on in, they were on the back foot knowing we need another goal, and they just seemed to push too hard. And I think if it was at 1-1, it would have been the opposite. I think Adelaide would have controlled the tempo a bit better. So, yeah, whatever happened there, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on what happened? It was really strange.
Oh, yeah, it was a bit strange. I don't know. Maybe he likes gardening just like Monty does as well. So he likes to get out and get on the mower and make sure his lawn's nice and pristine. But yeah, it was a strange one. Like you said, if that game stays 1-1, it's a bit more evenly balanced going into the second leg. But I think the Mariners, with a 2-1 now have a huge advantage going back home.
Oh, they're in the box seat, definitely. And for me, what would I have changed to try and, for Adelaide to get something out of the game, or at least leave to head to the coast with at least a point, or at least a draw heading to the second leg? It was a pretty defence-minded lineup from the home team. They played a 4-1-4-1. And they made a 4-striker change for Ibasuki, who got injured in the 54th. They're bringing on Irakunda. So I don't think Irakunda would have come on that early. So I don't know why he's holding him back. Like, you've got, like I said, this weapon that you just keep in the back of the cupboard and you pull it out. And by the time you dust it off and use it, most of the times it's not too late. But I'd love to see what happens if he got on a bit sooner. But then they took off midfielder Clough for striker Blackwood in the 69th. But it's too late to apologise. It's too late. Like, I think it's just it's.
Here's a question for you then. Does Irakunda start in the second leg?
I don't know when you're waiting to start Irakunda. Like,
if you don't do it now, when you're like,
I don't know. This is the last throw of the dice for them, and in my opinion, I think they won't get anything out of this, and I think they'll leave and with their tail between their legs and had a great season. But the Mariners will be progressing to a final against either Sydney or against City. So, yeah, I don't know when they're using him, because, to be honest, I can almost bet my life that there's no way he was coming on in the 54th minute unless Ibasuki got injured. So that means that he wasn't going to. So he was going to make a sub in about the 70th, bring on Irakunda, and then bring in Blackwood about the same time. But, I just think 4-1-4-1 is very negative when you're the home team and you're also a team that scored a lot of goals this year. And I know you've leaked a lot of goals, but work harder on tightening your defence up, right? Like, you got goals in you. You want to leave there, and they wanted to, have a positive result, but I think they went too negative, and hence why as soon as the Mariners got their noses in front, they actually looked like the team that was just as likely to get a third as they were to concede an equaliser. So, yeah, I just thought it was a strange thing, and I've got a lot of time for Carl Veed. I think he's done a great job there, and he's got Adelaide playing really good football this year. But unfortunately for Adelaide, they've lost their form at the wrong time, and I think he's lost his way a bit. So I don't know what's happening there. Maybe he needs to, spend the night at home and let Millsy take over again. I think he's had a good record this year. I think Millsy's been undefeated since he's taken over the couple of times he's covered. But look, for me, it was just too late to apologise. But that's the end of our Revolutionised Roundup. Up after the break, we both name our team of the season. Let's see if you agree. Back soon.
You're listening to the Football Revolution.
Welcome back to the show. It's now time to select the players that have stood out this season or that we think would give us the strongest possible team if VIG and I went to head-to-head. So I know we have a difference of opinion on formations, but I'm not sure about lineups. But look, we'll toss a coin. Here we go. Heads or tails, VIG?
I'll go heads.
Tails it is. All right. I'm happy to kick off. I'm happy to go into bat first. So as we said, this is my team of the season. So not necessarily, I suppose, the absolute standout or the best player in every position. But for me, this is a mixture of the best players, but also putting a team together that I think would work. So there's no point having, one defender and all the rest attackers. So there's so many good attackers in this league. So it's a matter of finding the right balance. So there might be a few players that have made my bench who probably are good enough to start, but in a formation that I've decided to play, which is a 3-4-1-2, it just wasn't possible. So we'll start things off. So the goalkeeper for me, even though there was a couple of really tight decisions here, for me was the Wanderers number 1, Lawrence Thomas. I think he's been absolutely fantastic this year. And I think he was very, very harshly done by not to have been selected with Gauci in the Socceroos squad that was named earlier in the year. So he's been brilliant, and he's probably shown the victory as good as Paul Izzo is what they're missing out on in their former number 1. So he went overseas. He's back now, and he's a Wanderers boy. I think he grew up in the area, so they got their homegrown back, and he's been absolutely brilliant. He was a major reason why they finished so high up the table and played in finals football again for the first time in many years.
Yeah, he was. I think he was probably the outstanding keeper of the season across the league. There were times where he literally dug the Wanderers out of a hole, or kept them in the game. Numerous times this season, he made some terrific saves, and having that leader at the back, a voice at the back. He's a vocal keeper. I know they've got Marcelo experience in front of him and Tomislav Mersala, but just knowing as a defender, having a keeper behind you who has a presence, can pull off some great saves. He's loud and demanding of you. It makes your life 100 times easier as a defender, especially as a centre back.
Oh, yeah, it was an absolute blessing for Rudin this year, and hopefully for Wanderers fans and for Marco Rudin, they've locked him in for plenty of years to come. So I'm playing with the back 3 here. So like I said, I decided here with so much talent that I'd give us a balance, but I also wanted to make sure we weren't going to cop, we're going to score 10 goals and cop 13 because we've got no structure at the back, but we'll play with the back 3. So the left is a guy who automatically picks himself, Jordan Boss. So he's been absolutely brilliant for City this year. He's also received a call up to the Socceroos, and if rumour has it is correct, he'll be leaving our shores for Europe in the coming weeks, or whenever his team is knocked out of the final series. So, as we said, look, he looks like the way he runs, the way he moves. He looks like a young Gareth Bale. He's the fastest bloke in the A-League. He's got a killer left foot, so he'll give us speed and some versatility at the back, and also give me a balance when I'm only playing a back 3. The centre back is a guy that we talked about last week with the Mariners, the 2 Mariners coaches, Nick and Sergio. So it's Brian Kaltak. So they've just pulled him out of nowhere. He's had to work really hard. So it's actually a fantastic story that after so many setbacks and so many so close for him, that he's finally got his chance in the A-League, and he's now a semi-finalist in the A-League, and he could be a grand finalist come Monday next week.
Well, he was probably contemplating football retirement somewhere on a beach in Vanuatu a couple of years ago, and now look at him, 29 years old, just signed a big deal with the Central Coast Mariners, and he's been an absolute rock for them at the back this season.
And he's the first international. I think they mentioned last week he's the first international ever from Vanuatu to play in the league.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. And rounding out my back three, and this was based on the fact that of having someone that also gives me that little bit of speed and a bit of cover in that when I'm only playing a back three, I've gone for Jack Ingot. I think in a Raw team this year that really struggled, I don't think it was because of him. I think he had a really good season, and he gives me a back three of Boss, Kaltak, and Hingett. So I think there's a couple of others that I'll mention that are on my bench, which we'll get to eventually. But I think they have been really solid in defence, but I think they wouldn't suit a back three. So for me at the moment, I've got Boss, Kaltak, and Jack Ingot. You like it? Are you scared when you come up against that?
It's interesting because I've got some similarities in my squad, but I've gone for a slightly different formation, but also struggled, to find someone at the right back position. So it's interesting, yeah.
I did try. We both have a similar football brain. We looked at trying to switch left footers across and seeing if I could play someone else out of position or a midfielder who's got a big engine as a wing back. But I thought, you know what? If I'm going to play with the three, I need someone that knows how to play that position. And there's no chance for someone to do some work experience to start to learn a new trade. I need to give it to someone who's done that job week in, week out. And so, look, I know they didn't make the six, and so picking guys who are outside the six might seem a little bit left field. But I think good old Jack Ingot can get the job done for me.
All right, we'll have to wait and see.
All right, so let's get into the midfield. So we've got a four-man midfield. So on my left is the Adelaide captain, Craig Goodwin. Like I said, everything he's touched this year's turned to gold. He was not at his best, to be honest, against the Mariners the other night. A few of his free kicks that normally nestle in the back of the net or end up on someone's head that they could shut their eyes and still score. A couple of them went up into the High Marsh crowd. They got the ball and can say that's a ball that our captain Goodwin kicked to us. So that's very unusual for him.
That's a collector's item, isn't it?
It is a collector's item. It's very rare that he does that. So look, he wasn't at his best, but after the game, I think he was brutally honest in the fact that he's expecting a lot better from his team and that they are going to go to Central Coast and give it everything they got to try and bring this tie back in Adelaide's favour. On the right-hand side is a guy that has returned to Australia this season, and his team was flying when he was in the lineup. And as soon as he came out, even though they were packed full of stars, they looked like a team that lost their way. So Matt Leckie takes the right midfield. So I've got a really nice balance of Socceroos there with Craig Goodwin on the left and Matt Leckie on the right. And in the centre of the park, if you're going to have a lot of quality around the pitch, I don't know if he has been one of the two standout centre midfielders this year, but I think he's not far off the mark. But I think what he brings to my team is just an unbelievable quality of passing and distribution, and he also works hard. So Luke Bratton is one of my centre midfielders. I think when you see my three up top, you'll see where I think they'll get maximum benefit from a player like that. And alongside him, I've gone for another Raw player. I've gone for Jay O'Shea. I know it's another player that missed out in the six this year, but I think I need a guy who he's going to work hard. He's a good leader. He's not scared of getting stuck into tackles, and he's also got himself a few goals this year. So, loves
a penalty. I hope you got some players that can win a penalty up top.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I can think he can bag a few if we get a few pens. But so Goodwin on the left, Matt Leckie on the right, and centre of the park, Luke Bratton and Jay O'Shea.
All right, interesting. That's
interesting as in you're crazy, or interesting as in I hadn't thought of that.
No, interesting as in obviously the formation you're playing is different to what I have. I've gone for a little bit younger in the midfield, but also some similarities. So you just have to wait and see, mate. You just have to wait and see.
All right, so that means that I've got one player that's playing in between the line, my number 10, so in front of the midfield, but in behind my front two, and that guy is probably the player that's going to win the best and fairest this year, and that's Brandon Borrello. So I think he's had a fantastic job. I think he's done amazing things for the Wanderers this year, and and he just said he wanted to come back and enjoy his football. And the other thing I really liked about him the other day is I said to Tommy Mercer a few weeks ago, he looks grumpy all the time, but he's come out and said that he loves being back. He enjoys the derby. Congratulations to Sydney. So it just goes to show, when he gets on the pitch, he's so competitive and he's such a fierce competitor that he sometimes gets lost. But he's found his way back and realised that, it is a game. And sometimes you got to pay credit where credit's due, and he did that. But yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant this year, and I don't think he's a striker. So I think we'll get even a better return from him if he's playing high up the pitch, but just in behind the strikers, so he can create and score as well. So Brandon Borello will be my number 10, and then my front two will be made up of the leading scorer of the all-time in the A-League, Mr. Jamie McLaren. So you just can't go past a guy like that. If you've got him in your team, you're guaranteed 20-odd, 25 goals a season. So he's proven it week in, week out. He's on every billboard at the moment in Melbourne. He's on every street corner. He's on every painting that someone's spray painting on the wall. He's just the hottest thing in Melbourne at the moment. And he's another guy, I think, who was a little bit off song the other day. So joining Craig Goodwin, he wasn't at his best. And if he was, it would have been big trouble for Sydney. But he wasn't. And I think partly that can be put down to the fact that Sydney has so much experience at the back. As I said, that's a team that I don't think anyone wanted to play in the finals when you've got, you've got Wilco, you've got Rodwell, who's played in the Premier League and played for England. You've got Ryan Grant, who's played for the Socceroos, and then you've got King, who's been overseas as well. And then you've got, one of the Socceroos keepers in behind them. So it's a really experienced unit. So I think they can take some credit for keeping him quiet. But, I'd hate to bet against McLaren being quiet 2 games in a row. So I think the Sky Blues could be in for a bit of trouble. And alongside him in the strike force is Oscar Zawada. So he's been excellent this year. He's proven that he just knows how to finish. And sometimes, like he said, he's had some service, which is just, that VIP Rolls Royce, gold service. But sometimes he's had to really work hard, and average balls he's turned into goals because he's just so good at adjusting his body and being able to, create something out of nothing. So yes, I think his form and the Phoenix form all dipped when he had his first child, but that's a lot more important than football. So I'm sure he's happy that he's got his healthy baby boy, and he would have liked a semi-final or a final to go alongside that. But if he had a choice, which one way or the other, I think he's glad he's got what he's got. But he'll be my other striker. So my lineup is Lawrence Thomas in goals from the Wanderers, Jordan Boss, Brian Kaltak, and Jack Hingett as my back three. Midfield consisting of Adelaide captain Craig Goodwin on the left, centre of the park Jay O'Shea, and Sydney's Mr. Engine Luca Bratton, and on the right Matthew Leckie. Playing in between that line there as my number 10 is the A-League standout player this year, Brandon Borello, and up front is my strike force of Oscar Zawada and Jamie McLaren. So that's my starting lineup, and I'll quickly just go through my bench before you tell me what you're putting on the pitch against me. So Joe Gauci will be my backup goalkeeper. He's been fantastic this year as well. And to have 2 keepers like that in your side, you'd be very spoilt. I think you'd be very broke, but I think you'd be very spoilt for choice. At the back, I've gone for Tommy Merceler. And like I said, just because of the way he plays and his style, I don't know if he suits a back 3. He'll probably message me and tell me you're a clown. You don't know what you're talking about. I could play in a back 3 easily, but I think he's better in a back 4. So hence why I've got him there for his experience in the season he's had, but he wouldn't start. I've also picked James McGarry because I think James McGarry's been excellent this year, and he'll give me some goals off the bench. So I've gone for James McGarry. I've also chosen Ryan Kiddo for his versatility. He's been, he's played fullback this year. He's played midfield. I think he's even had a crack up front. So he gives you a lot of versatility. So I think for his consistent performance, I don't think he's been a 10 at all this year, but he's probably been a 7 or an 8 in multiple different positions, which makes him very handy. And then rounding out my squad, I've gone for Callum Nieuwenhof, who was a toss of the coin between starting him in the centre of the park instead of either O'Shea or Bratton. He's had a fantastic year. He's worked hard. He scored goals. And he gives me a little bit of youth on my bench. Marco Tilio, who made the under-23 squad, and especially in the second half of the season, he's found his form and shown why he's one of the hottest talents in the country. I definitely have him there to come off the bench and spark something. And I couldn't go past Mr. 17 goals this season, and the man that's led the line for the Mariners in Jason Cummings. So that rounds out my bench: Marco Tilio, Joe Gauci, Ryan Kiddo, Jason Cummings, James McGarry, Callum Nieuwenhof, and Tommy Merceler. So that's my squad. I don't know how it would fare against yours, but I'm very keen to hear what you're putting out in the pitch against me.
Very interesting. Yeah. All right. So it's a great squad, and to be honest, I've got some similarities, but I prefer a 4-3-3 or essentially it's a 4-2-3-1. I'm going to have to agree with you on the goalkeeping stakes. I think Lawrence Thomas, easily keeper of the season for me. Like I said, he pulled off some good saves, and I think having that stability at the back, the Wanderers really needed that. They haven't had that for a long, long time. They haven't had a keeper like him. So, back to I think Ante Kovic was probably the last, very good goalkeeper they had at the club. So they need that. They needed that stability, and that's what they got when they brought him in. They knew what they were bringing into the squad, and I think he repaid them, tenfold this season, and was really the reason why. Along with all the other pieces of the puzzle, but the main reason at the back that their defense was so good this season.
They also had, I think they only conceded 27 goals this year, so they had the best defence by quite a few. I think second was, and still quite a few goals more, was City, who have won another title, another Premier's plate. So it goes to show when they've put a few on City, they've got a better goal difference than City by quite a few. It goes to show that they were enormous at the back, and you expect no less from a Marco Rudin coached team. But I think I'm with you. I think LT's a huge reason why they had an absolute rock tight defence this year, and unfortunately for them, they just couldn't go all the way. But it wasn't from a lack of effort from him.
Yeah, definitely. So I've gone with 4 at the back. I struggled a bit at the right back position.
You're playing yourself there. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, if I'm available, yeah, I'm in. Play a coach, but
yeah.
But look, I tossed a few names in, but ultimately I went with Josh Risdon on this one.
Okay.
I think he hasn't been at his best the last few seasons, even though I know they won the league last year. Strange to say, but I think this year, I think he was for me, he was the player of the season for Western United in a poor season at a team level. But I think individually, I thought he was almost back to his best, and potentially. We've got a lot of players at right back for the Socceroos, but I think with the season he had, if he can build on that next season, who knows? Maybe he's back in the mix at that right back spot for the Socceroos. So going with him at right back. My 2 centre backs. I'm going to go with the Central Coast Mariners pairing of Brian Kaltak and Nectar Triantis. I think we spoke about Kaltak, a couple of minutes ago. He's been brilliant all season, absolute rock for Central Coast at the back. And I think the young fella next to him, Nectar Triantis, I think he's an amazing footballer with a very, very high ceiling. I think, he's got the physicality already. He's got a season under his belt now, in the A-League. And I wouldn't be surprised if some big European clubs come knocking for him in the near future. I think he's had a tremendous season, and he's just got all the attributes to go on and be a successful footballer at the very top level. So I like to keep my centre backs together, and I think the two Mariners centre backs for me have been the best 2 this season. So I'm going with them as a pairing at centre back.
What about your left back?
Left back, look, there was 2 names for me. It was Jordan Boss and James McGarry. I think they've been the 2 standouts. I think Jordan Boss has 2 goals, 5 assists, 5 clean sheets. McGarry 4 goals, 1 assist, 3 clean sheets. Tough one. I'm going to start Jordan Boss at left back, just because I want to play a high line. I want my left and right backs to get forward. And you'll see why when I show you my midfield as well. So going with Jordan Boss at left back. I think just he's dynamic. He gets his physicality, being able to go up and down. Same with Josh Risdon on the right. The one goes, one stays. I think that's how I'm going to go about it.
Mate, so in summary, we agree on Jordan Boss on the left. On the right, I think you are right, but to be honest, he got lost a little bit in a team that was really poor this year, so hence why I don't disagree. He's had a good season, but I think he got lost for me because of the fact that they were so average. And you've gone for the sauce bottles in the middle, which I respect, because they've come second this year. They've flown under the radar. They're at the moment, probably they were the most impressive out of the 4 teams in the semi-finals on the weekend. So yeah, look, it's definitely you got the guy who's come from the wilderness who no one remembered, and the guy who's had limited chances and he's gone there and they've given him a chance in Triantis. So it's a solid backline. Who have you got in your midfield?
Well, so my three-man midfield, or my two holding, I've gone with youth in Aidan O'Neill and Callum Neuenhoff. So O'Neill will be my holding midfielder. Neuenhoff more the eight that pushes up, into the attack, and is that link from midfield to my front line. And just sitting in front of them, I could have gone either way with this, but I'm going to go with Brandon Borello. But very close following him it was Max Burgess. But I just think it's just too difficult for me to leave Brandon Borello out of the lineup. I had to fit him somewhere in that puzzle. And like you said, I don't think he's an out and out number 9. I think he's better sort of just off the number 9 or in that 10 role or even even in a wider position. But yeah, just too many pieces of the puzzle, and I had to sit him as my number 10.
Mate, you're not that far off the mark. I did consider Aidan O'Neill. I thought he's had a great year. So he's definitely someone I looked at as well. And I thought Maxi Burgess had a fantastic year as well. So I can understand why he's mentioned. But yeah, I think Borello for us is a standout. And who was the other centre midfielder you said?
Callum Neuenhoff.
Callum. Yeah, he's been
bit of youth.
Yeah, but I think, mate, you've had a young son now, so you love the youth. So, you think that's the way forward. So I'm not surprised you've gone for Aidan and Callum in the centre of the park.
Yeah, so and then my three up top, I think, look, these three probably picked themselves. They've been standouts, for their respective clubs and also, for the Socceroos over the last, 4, 5, 6 years. So on the left side, I'm going with Craig Goodwin. It's impossible to leave him out of this squad. His left foot, his deliveries, his ability at set pieces as well. So gone with Craig Goodwin on the left, in the middle with J Mac, leading goal scorer. He's a fox in the box. You can't leave him out of this squad. He's going to bang goals in, wherever you put him. And on the right hand side, I've gone with Matthew Leckie. For me, I think he probably just edges out Attilio in that position. I think the season he's had, the experience he brings, he's flying. He was flying off the back of the World Cup. Picked up a bit of an injury, but he's back now and scored a crucial goal for Melbourne City in the semi-final on the weekend.
It's a very dangerous lineup, and like I said, I think my back three will have their work cut out having a front three like that. But look, I still back myself to get us in the game and give us a chance. But who have you gone for on your bench? Have you got a couple of bench players there?
So I've got a couple of benchies. I've gone with Thomas Glover in goals over your Joe Gauci. I think Glover's a type of keeper that you probably haven't noticed him that much this year, which is a good thing. He obviously plays with a very strong team in front of him, but I think when called upon, he's been really good this season and evidenced in the semi-final of the weekend. I think he kept his team alive in that tie. So I'm going to go with Tom Glover on the bench as my backup goalkeeper. Defenders, I'm going to go with Ryan Grant just because of his versatility. He was. I don't think he's had a great season, but I think he's built up. He started a bit slow, but he's grown into the season, and he's almost back to his best, and that Sydney backline are almost back to their best as well. So, got to go with Ryan Grant. At centre back, I'm going to go with Marcelo. Just because of his experience. I know I
was so shocked you didn't start him before. I was when you were mentioning the two Mariners, I was thinking, what happened to Marcelo? Did you write down the wrong name or something?
No, it was close. It was close, but I couldn't pull the two Mariners centre backs apart. So I've gone with Marcelo for a bit of experience on the bench, and I've got to go with James McGarry as well at left back as my cover there. In midfield, just going with the one with Maxi Burgess. So he's my he can play a bit deeper. He can play the 10. He can also play it out wide. And then my forwards on the bench, I'm going with Robert Mack, the bleached blonde Robert Mack, or maybe I'll take the Robert Mack before the bleached blonde. I think he was a little bit better.
Yeah, I would too.
It was. I don't know what happened on the weekend, but maybe that peroxide got seeped into his brain a little bit. But he wasn't. He, he wasn't at his best. And so I'll go with the Mac. I'm going to go with the Lolly Man on the other as my other backup up for the wide areas. I thought, he served me so well in my fantasy team that I couldn't leave him out of this squad. So I've gone with Joe Lolly and also your man Oscar Zawada as my backup striker. Toss up between him and Cummings, but I think Zawada offers something a little bit different to McLaren, whereas I think McLaren and Cummings are fairly similar.
Mate, it's a very strong bench, and look, probably a smart move. I know you love Marcelo and you want him in your squad, but he'll miss a few games because of his record with suspension. So you're better off to get your centre pairing sorted, and he can come in and make a couple of cameos. But all right, that's the end of our team of the season. So it'd be interesting to see if we could get it organised, to see if we could have a clash, and if we pick the same player, maybe we just draw straws and then we bring in a replacement. But look, I'm keen to hear what the listeners think and whose side they like and what they think we should have changed or what we got right or whatever. But yeah, please hit us up on our socials.
Well, look, now that there's no All-Star game, maybe we have the Gio versus VIG All-Stars.
Yeah, mate, that's definitely. But you know what? Any good ideas they're not interested in. So I know that's definitely going to be squashed. If we come up with a crap idea, they'd be keen. All right. So
how about we just have the week off and have no game? That's what they've planned.
Yeah, what a great option. All right. So moving on to the final section of our show, which is our clinical finish. And first up is our WTF, our what the foot. So we already touched on this, so I won't spend too much time on it. It was the correct decision, but I hate the rule. Sydney was allowed to retake the penalty that Glover had saved to deny Caceres, and Lafondre made sure he didn't suffer the same fate slotting the ball home. The reason was encroachment, as you said, by City defender Callum Talbot. But for me, it should be a passive offside. If he interferes with a rebound, then yes, you could award a retake. But if not, then play on. Now, yes, he did. So in this instance, they got it right. But if they understood the rule and they realised that he has to stay out of play, if he goes near the ball or involved in the play, then the penalty will be retaken. Well, okay, if he runs in and he stops and he doesn't interfere with anybody, well, he's done nothing. So at the end of the day, it hasn't affected the keeper saving. It hasn't affected the guy taking the penalty. So it's just a caca rule. So for me, it is what the foot. I think it was harshly done by. I think Sydney deserves something out of the game, but the keeper's gone and made a fantastic save. And because some guy up on the hill has eaten a lolly that he didn't unwrap properly, they've said, oh, yeah, take the penalty again. I hate these rules. They stink and they wreck the game. So for me, it is what the foot. It was the right decision, but the decision needs to be reviewed, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, it happens a lot, right? This and it doesn't always get picked up. So, as a Sydney FC fan, I'm glad it got picked up on Friday night. But yeah, it is a bit of a rubbish rule. I think it should just be as soon as the player. Oh, I don't know. Maybe not. I was going to say as soon as the player starts to move towards the ball, you can start to run in. But Paul Pogba does his 26 slow step run up to take a penalty. So yeah, look, I don't know. You just got to stay out of the box until the penalty's taken, and then you can run in and clear it or follow up. But you start to see players now even starting 5-10 yards behind the penalty the box, so they can get a bit of a run up and time their run as the player kicks it and run into the box. So it's an interesting one, but Tom Glover's done so well there. He's made a tremendous save, and his players let him down by encroaching. And yes, he did clear the ball away. So I can understand why they've made Sydney retake it.
Yeah, look, you feel sorry for Glover. He thought he put off a great save, and he had Coach Vidicic absolutely cooking. But once he realised that they got it right and he calmed down, but he thought that he's got himself a 1-0 win probably, and instead they get a retake. So it's pretty harsh. But yeah, look, it is the rules. So play on. But yeah, just have a look at it in the off season. Okay, games to watch this week. It's the return legs. Melbourne City welcome Sydney with the score locked at 1-1, and the Mariners hope to replicate the form they showed at Highmarsh last week when Adelaide United visited the Central Coast trailing 2-1. So two fantastic and exciting second legs here to be played. Tell us quickly, VIG, Melbourne City, or your beloved Sydney FC, who goes through the final?
Oh God, Honestly, this is a lot closer than a lot of people expected. I think a lot of people expected if you said City versus Sydney, 4 or 5 weeks ago, you would have taken City hands down. You would have said they'll win both games easy and they'll progress. But um, like I said, Sydney did so well. They nullified Jamie McLaren really well. Even the wingers, City didn't, with all the possession they had. I think you said 62% possession. They didn't really create that many opportunities, and they got their goal off a set piece. It wasn't like it was great build up play, and they broke the lines and got in behind the Sydney back line. I think the only thing, if this was a return leg at Allianz in Sydney, I'd almost want to put some money on Sydney to go through. But the only thing swinging it, I think Melbourne City at home, they've been so good this year at home. I think they'll just get the job done at home.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm not sitting on the fence here, but I think if it's still tied at halftime, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1 in the second leg at halftime, I think that Sydney will go on and win the game. That's my opinion. If City can lead at halftime, I think that they'll go on with a job. But I think if it's still tied at halftime, I thought Sydney came home the stronger in the second half, and I reckon it'll give them confidence. So yeah, if it's tied at halftime, Sydney will run away with it. But if not, and City have the lead, they'll get the job done. And the second game, for me, I think that Adelaide, like I said, they've had their season. It's been a great year, but I think the way Central Coast have been playing, the belief in the squad, as we spoke to them last week, how comfortable and confident they are, and they've got young guys in there who are up for this because it's not their fourth or fifth final series, it's their first. So for me, I think they'll just get the job done, and I don't know what the score will be, but I just think that Central Coast has just got too many weapons at the moment, and Adelaide are going backwards in form, not forwards. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think at home, they're going to get a good crowd there. I think Central Coast see this one out. I don't think they're going to go and spank them 4-1 or 3-0, like they did a couple of weeks ago. But I think that they'll do enough to get it done. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 or something like that. So unless Adelaide have to gamble. If they gamble early, and come out and try and just blow Central Coast out of the water, then who knows? But I think Central Coast at home with a good crowd there will get the job done.
All right, well, let's have to wait and see. If you missed any part of the show or want to listen to other episodes, where can they catch it?
Yeah, they can catch us on all good podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, also up on Football Nation Radio across their platforms, and they can see the video of our ugly mugs up on our YouTube channel.
Check it out. But good luck to all teams in the second leg of the semis. Both ties hanging in the balance, so it will depend on which team turns up or which teams turn up to play. We hope you enjoyed the show even half as much as we enjoy bringing it to you, and we look forward to your company again next week. Until then, enjoy the football, enjoy the semis, and as we say, rise up and join the football revolution. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy the semi-finals, and we'll catch you again next week.